800 workers of NIB will lose their jobs, with thousands more households and livelihoods destabilized if the plan is implemented.
The 800 staff of the NIB, in case they lose their jobs, in each person, per the structure of the Ghanaian society, each person is a breadwinner of at least 5 people. 4,000 Ghanaian citizens, livelihoods that are at risk.
Plus, to interrogate the minorities' claim that government is only planning to sell both ADB and NIB to their cronies.
It is clear that this is not about the interests of NIB. This is the last step towards passing through the back door to acquire NIB and ADB for themselves in a state capture.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Vodafone. The minority in Parliament is tonight waging a campaign of resistance against government's planned merger of the National Investment Bank with the Agricultural Development Bank. Now, the NDC MPs have been addressing a news conference today, warning there will be severe job losses if the plan is implemented. Now, government has been working on in the last few years to merge both banks due to their ongoing struggles. But the NDC MPs allege that in the last few days, government has quietly been expediting the deal with the potential to affect 800 jobs. Listen to the minority leader, Dr. Kese Latofosin, who has been speaking at this press conference.
Alhaji Dr. Bawumia and Ken Oforiatta, working closely with Mr. Printer, the Addison, have decided to either collapse the NIB or merge it with the ADB. We contend that collapsing NIB is not an option. 2, merging NIB to ADB is certainly not an option because it will come with its corresponding job losses. Already, we have issues with employment. We believe there is space for NIB to survive. We believe there is space for ADB also to survive. Ghana deserves NIB and Ghana deserves ADB. They have special mandates and it should be respected as such. And their families, we want to assure them that the NDC minority will fight for them. We want to assure them that we cannot add on to the unemployment situation in the country. To the Ghanaian youth out there, we want to assure them that in as much as we can agree with them that they are so angry because of the mess, the gargantuan mess we are seeing in this economy, we in the NDC have a solution. The 800 staff of the NIB, put it in this perspective, in case they lose their jobs, or in case 600, 700 of them lose their jobs. Each person, per the structure of the Ghanaian society, each person is a breadwinner of at least 5 people, household of 5 people. So 5 times 800 will give you 4,000. Okay, so we are talking of 4,000 Ghanaian citizens, livelihoods that are at risk. And that is at the highest level, the macro level. At the micro level, what about the auxiliary staff?
Well, meanwhile, the minority allege that the move to merge the banks is to allow government to sell it to private interest. Listen to Isaac Adongo, who is a minority spokesperson on finance.
Unless there is an ulterior motive, they should come. The minority will give them a group of people to go there and work for free. With a clear mandate, no interference, and NIB will be the most viable bank, the most well-capitalized bank, and the most liquid bank in Ghana. It is clear that this is not about the interests of NIB. This is the last step towards passing through the back door to acquire NIB and ADB for themselves in a state capture. And I will explain to you why, of all the banks, they chose ADB. ADB is listed on the stock exchange market, isn't it? 64% of the shares are with the Bank of Ghana. So when they met them, the English will start. Oh, but Bank of Ghana, you are a regulator. You want to be a player at the same time. Why don't you divest your interests in the banking sector so that you focus on regulation? Then before you realize, somebody will appear as a strategic investor. It is they themselves. They will not take NIB and ADB from us. That is all. Exactly. Suddenly, the bank that has been struggling will find a strategic investor. And it will be the Bank of Ghana. How you are conflicted. How can you own a bank and at the same time you are regulating a bank? Please, give your shares to somebody so that you can focus on regulation. And they will bring the investor, call him a strategic investor, 64% gone. If we are not even lucky, 21% the government is already, let's add it. Already we are broke. Ladies and gentlemen, open your eyes. When we talk, you think we are doing politics.
Well, joining me in the studio right now is my colleague, Kweku Asante, was at this press conference and he joins me with a bit more on this. Kweku, so we've been hearing a bit more from the minority leader who believes saving NIB will be easy.
Yes.
How so?
In fact, Dr. Kiselato-Fortin recounts that if you look at NIB's indebtedness to government should simply turn this into equity so that NIB can balance its books. They also talk about a number of things that they believe that they can do in terms of their suggestions to government to be able to save NIB. For instance, introducing a private members bill to deepen governance at the bank.
Our position is simple. One, we can restructure the balance sheet of the ADB, of the NIB, by simply, one, they have Nestle shares that is valued at $500 million US. Simply sell it and give the money to them. Two, NIB contractors have collected loans from NIB, and these contractors use the money to perform functions, be it government contracts. They owe NIB 1 billion Ghana cedis. Pay them, and when you pay them, that is 1 billion cedis plus the 500 million will give you 1.5 billion. Government has also given loans to NIB worth 800 million, 1.3 million, 1.3 billion. So you have 1.5 plus 1.3 billion. So that will give you 2.8 billion. All what we are saying is that government should convert these loans to equity. And when you do that, the balance sheet all of a sudden becomes healthy by 2.3 billion Ghana cedis. This is not rocket science. Unfortunately, the economic mismanagement team is heavily incompetent. And as a result, they can't see this simple thing. Because of self-interest and incompetence, they are failing to see this. We will also come out with a private members bill to strengthen the governance of the NIB after you have done all of this. Honorable Adongo failed to communicate this, but we are saying this, that after this, we are going to officially write to the members of the economic mismanagement team, pointing out their incompetence and professing solutions. We'll write to the central bank, the Bank of Ghana, for Addison the printer to be aware that the solution is with Honorable Adongo and his team. We'll write to Ken Oforiatta and IMF, telling them that we are ready to help them fix the situation.
I want to bring in the minority spokesperson on finance. And a short while ago, we ran checks with the finance ministry. They have remained tight-lipped on whether or not there has been any agreement reached yet on this NIB ADB proposed merger. But the only word we're giving is that if it's going to happen, it wouldn't be something that will be done on the quiet. Let me bring in Isaac Adongo into the conversation. Mr. Adongo, thanks for your time here on Top Story. Do you have any firm confirmation that government has indeed gone ahead quietly with this particular measure?
Well, we know this government. When this government wants to undertake any terrible policy, what they do is that they try to test them. So they send out snippers, and if you take them for rumor, you will be surprised. And you are aware that station, Joy FM, had a documentary and broke the story on this. But before then, we had heard of series of engagement between the Bank of Ghana, the banks concerned, and the Ministry of Finance, at which some of these proposals have been tabled. The difficulty was, how do the people of Ghana accept this? And we will not wait until they take us for a surprise. And we have decided on the basis of what we know and their character and nature to point out to them that there are better solutions to dealing with the problem.
You talk about better solutions. The suggestion was to merge them. The suggestion was to merge them, and if you merge them, then instead of recapitalizing both, you then have one entity that you have to recapitalize.
Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. You see, ADB itself is suffering from capital adequacy. If you do the numbers, if you do the adjustments of the risk-based capital of ADB consistent with the requirements of Basel II and 3, you will find that ADB doesn't have 13% capital adequacy, which is the minimum threshold. So ADB itself is surviving on account of what we call regulatory formulas. That is, the regulator simply conveniently looking elsewhere in order to allow you to continue to paddle your own canoe. That is what is going on. So ADB is basically suffering from asthma. If you take NIB sits on about 2.4 billion whole. That obviously is diabetes. So you cannot combine asthma with diabetes and expect that the result will be a healthy child. That doesn't happen. So the 2.4 whole doesn't disappear because you have made them. And the capital adequacy problem of ADB doesn't get away because you have made them. The cumulative effect is that you have a much more bigger problem, a much more bigger disease to address if you decide to combine asthma with diabetes. So you need to treat them for their individual ailments in order that they are healthy. And when they are healthy, you will find that there's really no need to merge them because they can live their life separately and they'll be more useful to society than if you merge them.
Together
so that is exactly where we are heading. We want to show them how to treat their individual ailments and not end up compounding a child that was from day one be suffering a combination of diabetes and asthma.
To get them healthy, you've suggested that they should sell the shares they have, for example, in Nestle. That is a strategic investment that they make, for example. Wouldn't that cost more to do that than find the government proposal, which is to merge them? And also, you talk about the contractors, for example, that they're exposed to contractors to the tune of over $1 billion. The government should simply pay these contractors. It comes back to the fundamental question. Government hasn't got the money to even pay these contractors so they can get these banks into a healthy position.
Okay, so government doesn't have money. That's what you say. But I'm sure if it was a national cathedral, they'll find the money. If it was at the president creation comfort to fly a private jet, they'll find the money. So clearly, it's about where your mouth lies. You need to prioritize that. And we are quite clear that the money that we are asking for is government money already with NIB. It's not as if government is going to find that money from somewhere. You already have 1.3 billion of your money sitting with NIB. It's just that the obligation on the balance sheet of NIB is that money is expected to go back to government. Now, if we change that obligation to equity, which means that the money will not return back to government, then suddenly there's 1.3 billion available for NIB to recapitalize. That same 1.3 billion becomes an investment on the books of NIB, that NIB can go out there and sell those bonds and raise 1.23 billion cash. So that money, you already have it. You are not going to look for it. It's already sitting there. It is just a matter of changing the obligation on the balance sheet from a repayable amount that you expect to come back to you to money that now constitutes capital that cannot be returned to you. That is the first point. The Nestle shares was bought by NIB several years ago for about 50 million Ghana cedis. So it's not something you are now going to buy. And that is the basis for which they gave the loan of 500 million to swap. So having been given shares and equity, you have gotten value for the 500 million. So all you need to do is to bring back that 24% shares of Nestle back onto the balance sheet, allow NIB to sell it. And if NIB sells it for 500 million when they bought it for 50 million, they automatically make a profit of what we call a capital gain of 450 million. That 450 million automatically goes to improve the capital of NIB, but also inject 500 million cash into NIB. So clearly, NIB will be very strong in terms of capital. NIB will be very strong in terms of cash flow. Now, if you don't have the cash to pay the contractors, and we have seen it in this country where contractors have been paid with bonds, it's not new. this government was the first to introduce the payment of contractors with bonds. So simply aggregate all the obligations of NIB clients that have executed government projects that we are not paying. Put all that together and issue one bond to NIB to cover these contractors. NIB can go on the market and sell that bond and realize the value in order to improve its cash and to restate its capital by 1 billion. So in all, we are looking at almost 2.75 billion that will go into the capital of NIB. NIB immediately will wipe off the 2.4 billion deficit in capital. It will be level 350 million Ghana cedis. And you are looking for 400 million capitalization. So simply put, NIB's own balance sheet is enough to generate 2.75 billion to pay off the 2.4 billion and leave 350 million towards recapitalization. All the government needs to do now is to find 50 million. If nobody will find the money that they are borrowing for the Financial Stability Fund, we are saying assign that equivalent to the Financial Investment Trust of the Bank of Ghana to come and take a stake of 50 million in NIB and increase the capital to 400 million. So straight away, NIB will have almost 2.8 billion cash, free cash. No bank in Ghana has that. It will be the most liquid bank. NIB will have been fully capitalized, wiped off the deficit, and will now be 400 million compliant with the minimum capital requirement. And will now constitute one of the best banks in Ghana to be able to deliver to its mandate and sustain the jobs that it already has created and the livelihood that it's creating and contribute to national development.
And what about
How
the
is that
ADB
difficult?
problem? What about the ADB problem?
How is that difficult? Instead, you are interested in combining people who are sick to create a much bigger sick person. I mean, who does that?
I'm curious.
I don't know who does that in this world.
I'm curious about the ADB question.
So, unless there's a serious motive, all these complexities is strange. The last time I heard and your report said that ADB was going to acquire NIB. ADB doesn't have the money.
Yeah, I mean, so
ADB is owned 64% by the Bank of Ghana through the Financial Investment Trust. It is owned 21% by government, and it is owned 11% by the Ghana Amalgamators Trust. So
yeah, I mean, and that is why I wanted clarity. You've proposed the solution for NIB. What about ADB?
To look for the amount of money to give to ADB, its bank, to go and acquire its own bank, NIB, and collect the money that it brought to pay the money itself, and the next day they'll wake up and say that they have lost NIB because they have sold it. Who brought the money? You. Who bought it? You. Who collected the money? You. So what have you sold? Evans, if you build a house and you live there with your family, and you go to the bank to go and take a loan to buy your own house, pay your own self, put the money in the bank, and then tell your family you need to go out and rent because you have sold the house. You sold it to who? To yourself? I mean, where does this happen? Why these unnecessary complications and complexities? If it is not for ulterior motive, who would do this? Just give the money to NIB and give part of it to ADB. You will cure their individual ailments. They will be healthy citizens in our community. They will perform expanded responsibilities for the economic revival of our country. I mean, why don't you want to do this? There is clearly an ulterior motive.
You said clearly ulterior motive. In fact, at the press conference, you suggest that they possibly is a plot to sell this off to private interests. There isn't any evidence now to suggest that, is there? Because even now, there's no set.
I haven't said. I said unless there's an ulterior motive. I hope you get me.
Okay.
I said unless there is an ulterior motive, these complexities just don't make sense. It is different from saying that I have approved that there is a private interest. No. I'm simply saying that the decision is common, it's obvious, it's sensible. Why are we navigating the waters with very simple, common sense decisions in finance? Why are we alone introducing complications? What do we intend to achieve?
And please stay with me. I want to bring in Dr. Richmond Etiahene, who is a banking consultant, joins us on the line right now. Doc, thanks for your time here on Top Story.
Thank you very much, Evans.
So where do you stand on this ADB-NIB merger conversation? The minority says they have where the government is moving very quickly to close this deal. Is that the solution?
I don't think merging NIB and and ADB is solving any problem. It's not a solution issue at all. I think we should sit down, do a very diagnostic study of the two banks and see. Like the earlier speaker said, NIB is sinking. NIB sank, not because NIB wasn't a good bank. It's all about contractors' financing that has not been paid. And it's straightforward. It's straightforward. And I have had a chance to work there, and I know what I'm talking about. I have worked there, so I know what I'm talking about. The question is that NIB has suffered from corporate governance crisis since 2010. And I want people to get it clear. There have been instances where certain positions have been given to people to go and bring the bank down. I have documents to it. And NIB has suffered from corporate governance crisis in addition to the credit crisis that we are talking about. And never started yesterday. I can tell you that if you go back to 2015, 2016, these issues were there. These issues were there. Non-payment of contractors has been there. And I have the figures in front of me. I have the amount of malfeasance that has been created by certain people in the NIB. And we all sat down there unconcerned. It was until the IMF came in that they told us that the NIB must go. And I asked myself, now who caused them? I mean, we should be able to distinguish between what we want to do and how we do it, and from how we cause the problem. The problem has been caused, and I can give you names. You'll be surprised. Certain people appointed to certain positions, which they have caused this challenge, this problem that we have today.
If that's the
and
case,
they went away. They went away.
Is that the case, dog? Is NIB worth saving then?
It's NIB for me. I've always said that it's a development bank, and I have worked there. Maybe those who are talking, I have worked there until I left. I worked there as a senior person before I left. NIB before I left was one of the best. And you cannot compare those days. You can't compare ADB and NIB. NIB was ahead. NIB was ahead. Unfortunately, it has suffered from corporate governance crisis.
How do you solve that problem? The minority had made some proposals tonight.
The proposal is very simple. We should do a study, and either we recapitalize each of them, because you see, you don't bring a weak institution to buy a bad institution. We have what we call good bank buying a bad bank. There is a theory there. But the two of them, they are not good for anything. The capital of ADB, if you look at the recent capital adequacy published at 2022, they are also suffering from the same crisis. NIB maybe wasn't part of the debt restructuring, so it didn't have any problem. But ADB is not better than, if you look at the problems they have, it is not better. So I would think that we shouldn't rush about it. The way IMF has said it, let us take our time. Let us see how best we can refinance NIB, recapitalize it, and let it stand on its own. Because, you see, the mandates are so different. The mandates, the people say they are universal bank. But when you go into deeper of NIB, it's more of contract financing, development issues. Whereas ADB is supposed to be agreed, but has also run away to do universal banking. And this issue started in 2003, when we thought that we can give one license to every institution. That is why ADB and NIB is suffering. But for the solution, I don't see how, let me repeat, I don't see how ADB can acquire NIB. Because ADB is not a strong institution that will be able to, even if they refinance it, they recapitalize ADB, it will not be enough to take over the debt of NIB. It will never be easy for them.
I mean, Mr. Dongo,
Yeah.
are you expecting this deal to come to Parliament if government proceeds with the plan?
Yeah. Evans, first I want to thank Mr. Dr. Tuahene. The focus of this particular press that ADB emerged out of NIB. If you know the history, ADB was just a department for agriculture finance within NIB, which was halved off to focus on agriculture. So actually, NIB is the mother of ADB, and we do know that no matter how grown and how rich a son is, he cannot marry his wife. Everybody knows that. So I'm surprised that we're even having a conversation around ADB, which is a smaller bank, taking NIB. That is already a non-starter. But we believe that the solution can be found.
Yeah.
And that solution, if we put our heart to it, we can find it. I was surprised. Look, and let me tell you, Evans, we haven't given NIB the kind of attention that it deserves. Given that it has been in crisis, the managing director sat in Canada and Zoom managed NIB for almost a year. How can we be serious with that? A bank that requires hand-holding, proper nurturing. The managing director sat in Canada for 1 year, and what he was doing was Zoom managing that bank. Even very good performing banks cannot be managed by Zoom for 1 year. So clearly there are issues. And I want to tell you that the bank itself was established not by the Companies Code or Companies Act. It was established by the National Investment Bank Act 612. And that act is very clear under Section 22 about under liquidation provisions that nobody can liquidate or take any action that will ultimately lead to the demise of NIB unless it comes back to Parliament for Parliament to pass a law giving directives as to what that process, how that process should be pursued. So there's clearly a legal mandate, and that legal mandate rests with the people who set up NIB, and it is the Parliament of Ghana. So yes, we expect anything other than a pure regulatory action by the Central Bank under Act 930, either to place it under administration, to revoke the license, or to place it under receivership as provided because they have a license of the Bank of Ghana. But it is quite clear that it's not the action the Bank of Ghana wants to take. It is not the action the government is interested in. The only option left now is to come under Act 612 and particularly under Section 22 of the Act. So
thank you
for them.
Thank you very much, Isaac Adongo. Thank you very much, Dr. Richmond Etiahene. Well, government has said that it's something that they will have to address, but they have indicated to us that if anything is happening in terms of concluding this transaction, it won't be handled quietly because of its importance. Well, do you work there? You've had the conversations around the potential job losses. I want to hear from you. 055-111-997.
Ajwa, the online page for the new business account was in shambles yesterday. We lost the page.
Tell me about it.
We started off very confident, and then the office broadband went down. When we set up the hotspot from the phone to reconnect, the data allocation also got finished.
You are joking.
I wish. The meeting room was hot. Kobe quickly tried calling them to give us some more time, but he had no airtime. Total chaos. They also gave us feedback that our website didn't have enough information. How can you run a business this way and hope to grow?
Oh dear.
Your business communication can be way better than this. Vodafone One Business is a complete communications package that gives you broadband with data transfer to mobile phones, mobile package with free calls among employees, landline with free calls and website design plus domain name registration. At Vodafone Business, we understand that strong connections within your business lead to success. Call 050-777-9000 or sign up by sending an email to sme@vodafone.com. Vodafone, further together.
In the next 60 minutes here on Newsnight, Electoral Commission warns country's democracy is facing a major risk as it accuses political parties of working to pad the voters' register with minors.
Political party officials and members of political parties are also entreated to stop the practice of persuading people who are unqualified and ineligible, such as minors, from taking part in the registration exercise.
Details as the Commission continues its onslaught on the guarantor system, arguing it has lost its relevance.
The Electoral Commission believes that the guarantor system has outlived its usefulness, and we are convinced that the time is right for a system that every registrant is identified on his or her own merit.
More on that here on News Night. Also, tonight we'll tell you why the CDD is still concerned about the recent appointments to the Electoral Commission because of the perception and concerns over the political affiliation of some of these appointees.
Appeal for them to resign. Yes, I think that appeal remains. If we allow that to fester, if somebody else comes and says, I'm appointing my propaganda secretary or whatever to join the Electoral Commission, can we say anything? We can't.
More as Codeo proposes legal reforms to the electoral processes to safeguard the credibility of the Electoral Commission. Also tonight, the minority in Parliament demands a refund of what it describes as illegal dialysis fees charged by Korle Bu Teaching Hospital. As it says, every district hospital should at least have one dialysis machine. You want to stay with us for that? We'll bring you details as Korle Bu, a CEO, serves notice of opening investigations into the matter as he accuses the head of the renal dialysis center of increasing prices without approval.
We buy these items in use. So definitely, even if you just look at the exchange rate alone, that would necessitate some adjustment in the in the prices.
Plus, views from persons living with kidney conditions.
So I have to beg before I get money for my weekly dialysis at this private facility.
In business,
commercial banks move to allow more movable assets to be used as collateral for loans.
And in sports, Kumasi Asante Kotoko maintained confidence in coach Kwesi Appiah's chances of being elected onto the Ghana Football Association Executive Council despite his appointment as head coach of Sudan national team.
We have all the details for you here on News Night. Send me a WhatsApp 055 1111 997. And we start from the Electoral Commission, where they've been addressing a news conference today. The Commission has issued a stern warning to political parties to immediately stop busing minors to register as voters. The Commission says it has noted a worrying trend where so many persons below the age of 18 are registering in the ongoing exercise. The EC says this led to 7,561 challenge cases before it. According to the Deputy Chairperson of the EC, Dr. Bosman Asari, parents must also ensure that their children who are not 18 years old do not attempt to register.
We would like to use this opportunity to entreat parents to dissuade their wards who are less than 18 years old to be coerced by anyone to assume a new age and register as a voter, because they may find themselves on the wrong side of the law. Political party officials and members of political parties are also entreated to stop the practice of persuading people who are unqualified and ineligible, such as minors, from taking part in the registration exercise. We have noticed that the minors and foreigners have taken advantage of the guarantor system with the support of some members of political parties. As our key stakeholders, we expect the political parties to support us to ensure the voters register is credible, because if there are people who will benefit from a credible voters register, we strongly believe the political parties will be one of the main beneficiaries. We are stressing on this because we continue to hear of reports from our officers on the ground and see pictures, videos from the districts of minors and other unqualified persons taking part in the registration exercise. We believe this must stop, and the parties, the media, CSOs, all of us must support the Electoral Commission to ensure the lane and the passage of our new proposed CI.
And Kwesi Asante joins me in the studio. You are the press conference today. The EC came with evidence, pictures of these individuals they say are minors. But the question is, do they provide any verification of that? Because in going beyond the pictures, you have to establish if indeed they are below 18.
Well, no, the EC did not provide any such evidence. I asked Dr. Bosman directly that these are persons who may look that like they are actually not 18 years, but what shows that they may not be 18 years. According to Dr. Bosman, anthropological evidence can show that if you look at someone, they may not be a certain age that they claim to be. And that is why they are going to utilize the challenge system to ensure that all these persons are taken out of the role.
The anthropology will tell you, when you go to every country, if you live in Korea, the Koreans, they know how they grow. So we live in our part of the world, we know how our people grow. So if the one who asked the question comes to me and says he's 12 years old, I will doubt him. Because I've never seen, about 99% of the time, you will never see anyone who is a practicing journalist who is 12 years old. So I think we know how our people, we are in our countries. And that's, when you talk to the anthropologists, they will tell you. So I think we need to look at it from that angle. And I think the IPAC, the question on the IPAC, I think this is a forum for registration. So this is not the forum for that. I think somebody was saying there was a question on the guarantor system. People, 63.14% have used the guarantor system. Let's go back. In 2021, we did the registration. Out of the 17,027,000 people who registered in 2020, about 61% of them, they registered with the Ghana card. About 61% of them, that's more than 10 million. The figure was 10,259,000. This was 2020. They registered with the Ghana card. At the time, the Ghana card numbers, I'm not sure if they had done even 12 million. But we had about 60%. So fast forward. Preliminarily, we will say that there are a lot of factors why people are bringing the Ghana card, people are using the guarantor system, which we need to get into it. But clearly, it's possible some people may not be qualified. And because they are not qualified, they are hiding under the cloak of the guarantor system to be able to get onto the register. For example, the video and the pictures we show to you, all those people, per the information at our disposal, they were coming through the guarantor system. And you saw them with some papers. Did you see that their ages had been written on those papers for them?
And then this circles back to the CI question and the exclusion of the guarantor system in it. But we have the use of the Ghana card as a sole document. The EC was reiterating this point today.
Yes, I asked Dr. Bosman about the high number of people who are using the guarantor system to register. He believes that the system is inherently flawed, and that is why Parliament must come around and pass this new CI for them. They are hoping that when the House resumes in October, they are going to put that CI back before the House, and this time around they expect that it will go through.
The Electoral Commission believes that the guarantor system has outlived its usefulness, and we are convinced that the time is right for a system that every registrant is identified on his or her own merit, rather than another person vouching for the age and nationality of that person. We need to have the Ghana card, which shows the ages, the nationalities of the applicants. And these people appeared at our registration centers to go and register as people who are 18 and they qualify to vote. So when you hear the Electoral Commission talking about the new CI, we want to ensure that those who are minors and those who are not Ghanaians do not take part in our voters registration exercise. When you turn 18, then you join us, then you can also register as a voter.
But we know that the NIA have had some challenges. Today, there was an appeal from the EC.
Yes, according to Dr. Bosman Asare, it appears that is what is holding Parliament from letting its CI go through. And so they are issuing out an urgent appeal to government to release enough funds to the NIA to cover as many people as they can, so that that argument that is because people do not have the Ghana card, that is why they can't use it, will be defeated.
We would like to use this opportunity to especially urge the government, as a matter of urgency, to provide the necessary support to the National Identification Authority to register all qualified persons ahead of the registration exercise next year. As Ghanaians, we have the responsibility to protect our democracy. The Electoral Commission strongly believes that Having a voter register with only qualified persons is very central to protecting the country's democracy. We will carry out our registration exercise in our district offices and selected electoral areas next year. And we anticipate that all qualified applicants will have their Ghana cards to present as evidence of their ages and nationality.
Well, joining us right now is the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Mustafa Gbande. Also joining us is Deputy General Secretary of the governing MPP, Haruna Mohammed. Mr. Gbande, let me start with you. Let's start with this issue around the minors registering their numbers. 7,000 challenge forms have been filled already. The EC is worried that the political parties, you are complicit in this, busing minors to these registration centers for them to get onto the voters register. Do you accept responsibility for what is happening? You accept that you are as complicit as the EC says?
Thank you very much, Ivan. First of all, I think that is an alarmist assessment of the issues, because when a national exercise is ongoing and we have put systems in place to check errors, to check, issues that would be ills of the system, and that is running naturally, you don't go accusing political parties when your own officials are the ones administering the process. And you yourself have stated that a lot of people have been challenged. They have been challenged because of suspicion of one thing or the other. You have seen MPP people challenging NDC people as they suspect, NDC people challenging M. So how do you come out to accuse political parties when the system is running naturally? I think that EC is caught up in reducing the essence of the whole registration exercise to canvas for the passage of a law. By so doing, they must take the route of making unfounded allegations against political parties. The NDC deassociate itself from that accusation. We have not bashed minors. We have not involved in bashing minors. We believe that the procedures, when you walk to the registration center, you will be taken through a process. And that process is by law enough to be able to detect. The EC is now examining age by the mere look of pictures. That is quite preposterous. You don't use a picture to assess somebody's age.
But that's why
in this modern day, you don't go and take pictures without even telling Ghanaians where you got those pictures from, and jump into conclusion accusing political parties that you are a referee of bashing minors. Who is bashing minors?
But that is why the EC is one enforcing and wants to get the CI pass, so you have the Ghana card as you saw document, because that becomes a very good way of weeding out some of these challenges.
That you will use the guarantor system, the same requirement, the same process that you go through. That is what you have to go through to get the Ghana card, the same Ghana card. So we should go and remove the guarantor system from the Ghana card, invalidate all the Ghana cards that we have, then we can be having a conversation. Other than that, I believe that the system purges itself to the extent that political parties have representatives at registration centers. The Electoral Commission has put its officers there. All the people who have been challenged by law are required to justify why they should be registered in accordance with Article 42. Otherwise, they will not be registered.
The problem is the 7,500. That's what you've picked up. That's what the EC has managed to pick up, right? What about what you don't know? What is actually getting onto the register in places that you possibly may not have many vigilant agents on the ground? Isn't that the concern, really?
Evans, I do not think that EC, the fact that we have had a registration process, don't you know that before this process, EC have virtually failed to engage NCA to educate the public? And so if you have young men and women out of a certain frustration, even though they may not have gotten the age, or they have the age but don't have the documents, find themselves at a registration center and they are being challenged to bring their documents, you go and jump in the public to say that political parties are registering minors, they should discard the guarantor system, when your own data, 54%, suggests that the people who are registering do not have Ghana cards and that they are relying on the guarantor system. How do you invalidate the guarantor system?
Stay with me. Let me bring in the Deputy General Secretary of the MPP. Haruna Mohammed, do you accept responsibility for all these 7,500
people? Thank you very much. I am very surprised that the NDC is defending the issue of these minors. that the Electoral Commission has identified to have been on the register. Very, very surprised. And on the other hand, you know, I monitored the exercise from the north. Your sister TV station was interviewing people at the registration center in Tamale. And completely, one of them just said that she is 14 years, she had been here, and then she has not been registered for a longer period of time that she has been at the center. This was captured on video, national television, and it was the NDC agents who were defending the registration of these minors at the center. I have several other examples to say. So I'm not surprised. Mustafa Bandi is on the other side, defending the issue of minors, registering onto the electoral rule of Ghana. For us as a political party, we are law-abiding. We have stated it. The Vice President has stated it. The General Secretary has stated it. The National Chairman has stated it. The National Organizer has stated this fact. We are not going to accept the issue of registration of minors. This is clearly stated in Ghana's constitution that if you don't attain the age of 18, you should not be registered. And we are going to support this particular process. I am happy that the Electoral Commission is talking about a number of people being challenged. I hope that these minors will be the chunk of that. Our brothers in the NDC know that all the problems that we have had with this registration, slow pace of network, slow pace of registration of people, is as a result of a grantor system. For us, let's have a robust system. If you look at the trajectory, the contribution of MPP in the electoral system in Ghana, right from the days we wrote the stolen verdict, we have changed the spectrum of politics in Ghana. We don't allow minors, we frown on illegality, and that is exactly that we support. We want to see how the Electoral Commission will make this fact bear so that we can all interrogate this matter to make sure that the future leaders of this country, the youth, the little kids that have been forced to go and register just because some political party is desperate to get political governance in this country.
Well, you accuse the NDC, but 7,500. The common knowledge out there is that both parties are guilty of this.
What I know is that the MPP doesn't support the registration of minors, and I will not defend the registration of minors. And choose to defend the registration of minors, and that is going to stick to the integrity of the voter roll. And I see that they want to endanger the future of the people, the children, the future of people's children, where they will not allow their own children to go and register. And that is what is very painful to us as a political party.
Mr. Mohammed, thank you very much. Mustafa Bandi, grateful also. Let's stay with this and let's go to the Shanti region where political parties in the Asawase constituency continue to flout regulations of the Electoral Commission, barring the use of chairs and stones to queue in the ongoing limited voter registration exercise. The act has resulted in confrontations among applicants and other interest groups, especially the political parties themselves. The Naya Ojima visited the registration center and filed this report.
Some applicants in the limited voter registration exercise have had to compete with political party agents who use stones and seats in queuing for their prospective electorates. This situation that breeds chaos was banned by the Asukariman Municipal Security Council in ensuring a violent-free process. Women's organizer of the NPP, Umaira Ilyasu, speaks about an agreement reached between the parties.
When we went for the IPAC meeting, we was asked to come and tell our members not to come and form a queue during the night, because I can remember quietly last 4 years, that was the main reason why there was a violence here.
It is 9 in the evening, few days after the decision was taken. Despite the power cut within Asukariman, some persons believed to be party people have placed seats in queue. They number over 100. Though persons involved in the arrangement will not grant a recorded interview, they say the seats will be taken by applicants who sleep overnight at the registration center. Joy News checks through the night revealed the seats were taken early morning by applicants who who are believed to be sponsored to participate in the process. Asawase MP Muntaka Mubarak, who visited the center, is worried many will not be able to register within the period.
If you look at the number of people that are in the queue, I don't need an NG to tell me, by the course of the day, they will not be able to finish with all of them. Now they have to go and come back. Look at the cost of transport, the movement.
The NPP has expressed satisfaction with the process despite the breach in regulations.
I can say that this is the first time you come to the registration sector, and as a constituency that you see everything is calm.
Both political parties, however, expect the Electoral Commission and the Municipal Security Council to ensure they keep to the rules.
Well, still on the subject of elections and voting, the CDD has renewed calls for the removal of 2 newly appointed members to the Electoral Commission Governing Board, speaking at the roundtable discussion that assessed election-related activities in 2023 this year and its implications on the 2024 elections. The Director of Advocacy and Policy Engagement at the CDD, Kojo Asante, asked the Council of State to reconsider its position to do nothing about the controversial appointments.
The appeal for them to resign. Yes, I think that appeal remains, because how do you resolve this matter? If we keep quiet and we say, oh, okay, yes, you can appoint somebody who is obviously, an active partisan person onto the Electoral Commission. The person who, even if you are not an active party person or you are not a party person, because that person is there, they taint the Electoral Commission. If we allow that to fester, if somebody else comes and says, I'm appointing my propaganda secretary or whatever to join the Electoral Commission, can we say anything? We can't. So this door we shouldn't allow it to open and make it a precedent.
Well, Senior Fellow with Kodeo, Ambassador Francis Chaga, is calling on the Electoral Commission to institute a timely and transparent process for the publication of detailed coalition centers and election results.
Making the Electoral Commission institute a timely and transparent process for the publication of detailed polling station and coalition center results on the Electoral Commission's website ahead of the declaration of results of presidential elections. 3. Getting the Judicial Service of Ghana to amend PNDC Law 284 to provide a shorter timeline for adjudicating parliamentary election petitions at the High Courts and Court of Appeal. 4. Getting an enhanced affirmative action law that prescribes at least a 30% quota for women in governance and decision-making positions. And 5, but not the last, get electoral stakeholders to cooperate to combat the vote buying and misuse of incumbent status that are driving up the cost of politics and endangering the stability of our democracy.
You're still live here on Newsnight. It's on Joy 99.7 FM. Tonight, the minority in Parliament is demanding the immediate refund of what it describes as illegal dialysis fees charged by the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. In a statement signed by the ranking member on the Health Committee, Kwabena Mintah Kando, he says, although this may not be enough compensation to patients who may have suffered needlessly from the hospital's earlier decisions, refunds in terms of cash or an offer to provide dialysis services to offset the difference between the original and what they've already been charged will be absolutely useful. Now, we will get details of the statement shortly, but first, Maxwell Agbagba has been speaking to some persons with kidney conditions who raise concerns about the hospital's published fee increase and joins us in the studio right now. Maxwell, first, tell us about the story of this 54-year-old woman with a kidney condition you've been talking to.
So, her name is Georgina Pia, and she sells fish at the Tema Harbour. Now she cannot do that because of her condition. And she's been crying since she heard the news about the increase from 380 cedis to 765 cedis.
I started getting the symptoms of a kidney condition when my daughter was in the first year of university. Even getting food to eat is difficult. I have to beg before I eat. My mother, who used to support me too, is also blind now. I don't have any helper. I used to sell fish at the fishing harbor and used to get support from my friends, but not anymore. You know the harsh economic conditions now, so I have to beg before I get money for my weekly dialysis at this private facility.
First time it turned out with Fichiabo. Then we frame enough for phone and almost to and the crack. No more money me. It's any moment I'm saying again, I had the alpha into a beer anyhow. The mistress and I'm in your beer. I'll be the once a week. I'm in the
You've also been speaking to her daughter. What did she tell you?
Well, she's a 26-year-old. She's unemployed. She said many times you'd have to beg for money, sometimes on her WhatsApp status and on social media, just to gather enough money to take her mother to a private facility for dialysis treatments twice a week.
So now we didn't get an official information from the hospital patients. This and this is why the place is closed down. We had to we wrote a letter to them, but we didn't get a reply. We had to do a few follow-ups, but we didn't get concrete reasons why the place was closed down. So later we were hearing that the consumables, they didn't have consumables to work with. And so that was the reason why they couldn't open the place. But we wish that at least that could have been communicated earlier, because when they closed in May, we were there, I think about a month later, or it didn't even get to a month. Then you are there and then one person's picture will be sent. So and so has died. Couldn't get money to dialyze continuously, because I think Kolebu was the cheapest place, 380 cedis at that time. Other facilities were taking 500, 550 at that time. And so moving from Kolebu, no source of income, and then you are supposed to wait 550 twice a week or 3 times a week. Most patients couldn't get it. So we've actually lost a lot of patients, both young and old. But the one I can count right now is about 12 patients since Kolebu dialysis unit shut down. Yeah, Mr. Frank, may his soul rest in peace. He left a 3-year-old child, no, 7-year-old child behind. He couldn't pay. He couldn't get money to do it continuously. And so eventually he was home, and then his wife woke up and called us one morning that he couldn't wake up again. We had lost him. So I woke up at dawn to pee, and then I took my phone and I saw it on Snapchat that one influencer had posted that cost of Kolebu had been increased. And it was a big blow to me, because bringing my mom to this private facility, 460 cedis twice a week, I don't even get it. So it's once a week I get for my mom. I'll call church members, I'll call friends, and then they'll contribute and I'll bring her. And so we're really hopeful that Kolebu will open and then ease our troubles a little. And then I wake up at dawn and I see the prices being shot up to 765. The first question I was asking myself was, if government sector is charging this amount, it's just a matter of time before the private facilities that we are currently patronizing also increase their prices.
Well, today we've been hearing from the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. The Chief Executive Officer himself, Dr. Pokuwari, has been talking on the Super Morning Show. It says the head of the Renal Dialysis Center increased the cost of dialysis without the approval of management or Parliament. Maxwell, the minority, they have a statement out today on the same subject.
Exactly, Evans. So the minority in Parliament is demanding that with immediate effect, the Kolebu Teaching Hospital refunds the excess illegal fees it levied on dialysis patients at the outpatient department of its renal unit. It says, although this may not be enough compensation to patients who may have suffered needlessly from the hospital's earlier decision, refunds in terms of cash or an offer to provide dialysis services to offset the difference between the original and adjusted prices is the right thing to do and will go a long way to demonstrate to patients that the hospital is sensitive to their plight and is willing to do right by them.
We'll hear from the minority in Parliament on this subject pretty shortly, but listen to the clarity that we got from the Chief Executive Officer of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital today.
And so there's a process for approval of any proposed hikes in fees, which is that the unit in question would make a proposal looking at their input costs, and then this will come to management, and then we'll go to a process where we look at the justification for the proposed increases, and then we also look at other issues like, patients' ability to pay, and we engage other stakeholders before we then, the review proposal would then be passed on to the Ministry of Health and then to Parliament for approval, because as a public health institution, we cannot just arbitrarily increase fees. So that's the process. And so the facts are that this is a proposal that was still at the department level, had not even come up to central management. But unfortunately, there was a jumping of the gun, and a notice was put up, which, of course, in these days of social media, it even went viral before, and then that's where we are. But the fact is that it hadn't come to a level where even management had even considered and reviewed it. And that is what we are doing at the moment.
So what you're actually confirming to us is that the head of the unit who put up that post was not authorized to do so.
That would be correct. And as I said, there was a jumping of the gun, but that will be dealt with administratively.
How exactly are you going to deal with that administratively? Because this has caused quite some uproar across the country.
Yes, so you did that would you have internal process which would go through.
But Doc, what are the facts of the matter in terms of what Salifu said to Joy News by way of justification? There are some taxes that have been taken out. Government is no longer.
So that was also more or less a misrepresentation of the facts. What happens is that these items are usually shipped in from abroad, and so once the bill of lading is received, we have a process that we go through to the Ministry of Finance, through the Ministry of Health, to get a waiver of the taxes and duties on the goods. But then even these taxes and duties are not the main component of the cost, because they're just a small fraction of the cost or the input cost. And so usually we have that leeway. But in this particular instance, what happened was that there had been some contractual issues with the supplier, and so whilst we engaged in the trying to refine the contract and iron out the areas of misunderstanding, there was some shortage of mineral consumables. So we had to more or less cut back on the service a bit, and so that we can focus on the inpatients and emergencies, and then we asked the outpatients to utilize the other services in the city whilst we get this sorted. And so when this was sorted out, the consumables were airlifted in, and so we wanted to clear them quickly. So we didn't assess the waiver spend because it was going to take time, and then if we did that, we're going to incur demurrage. So we looked at the cost benefits, that if we incurred the demurrage that we're going to pay was actually going to offset whatever advantage we're going to get from the waiver. So the management decided to absorb the cost. So this is information that has been kind of planted as a withdrawal of the waiver.
So what happens now? I want to bring in the minority spokesperson on health. He's a ranking on that committee in Parliament and joins us right now. Kabana Mintakando, thank you for your time here on Newsnight. You just heard the Chief Executive of Kolebu explain that so the cost that was announced isn't one that has been approved, not by yourselves in Parliament and not by Kolebu's management either. Does that address a problem for you? Is that sufficient?
Am I speaking to Evans?
Yes, please.
And before the sound bite, you said we were going to listen to clarity. Don't you find it as more confusion? Yesterday we had a conversation on your platform, isn't it? We did, right?
Yes, we
Hello,
did.
Evans.
Yes, we did.
Yes. The explanation is an afterthought. Just to do damage control. You clearly could see that this has happened. So let's find some reasons for Ghanaians, because clearly you realize that when the price was announced, the PRO came. The PRO speaks for the institution, isn't it? And then PRO came justifying. I do not think that the PRO will speak to an issue without the knowledge of the authorities of the institution. So you tried justifying the adjustment with other reasons, i.e., the waiver of the exemptions, the inflation, and the waiver of the procurement cover and all that. So they tried justifying it until we came in with this illegal aspect of it. And they have retreated. The honorable thing to have done is to apologize. And they say, look, we are going to refund whoever was affected. We are going to refund whatever money is involved. And then we take it from there one after the other, so that we will invite the minister responsible for health to come and answer questions why those particular waivers have been withdrawn and all that. Because you see, Evans, I listened to the soundbite from the lady who said the mother is in the same situation. The conversation, we are starting the conversation in the midway. Even first and foremost, we must be talking about access. Look, you go to a whole region and no government health facility has even a dialysis machine. Which country does that? And you know that the renal patients are increasing by day. And so we must go back and talk about access, where government must procure health equipment for the already existing health facilities before we even come to the cost. And in the matter of the cost, we must also as a country try to brainstorm how will it be sustainable for people, for the units to run, and for people to also access them without high prices. So these are the issues. It's an afterthought. The explanation is an afterthought, and we must begin, because any government in any jurisdiction has the responsibility to deliver quality healthcare to its people. So whatever it takes.
And Mr. Kando, you made the point about the way forward is refund. Of course, you are on the Health Committee in Parliament, ranking member. How do you enforce this? How do you ensure this is actually something that Kolebu will do?
No, Kolebu must do it. Yesterday, we said that they must stop. Yes, they have stopped. They've retreated. And we are telling them that they should refund all. These are patients who visit them regularly. So, for example, if the patient has paid 765 Ghana cedis, there must be an internal arrangement where the next visit the patient will not pay anything. So there can be that internal arrangement, or else we will go there. And anybody who will bring me any receipt to that effect and has gone there and they have refused to either, attend to him or her for free or refund his money to him, I'm ready to lead that, refund.
Okay. Governor Mitakando, thank you very much. This is a conversation that we will continue to have because it's bigger, and as Mitakando had noted, it's a very complex problem, and what we're talking about possibly is just a symptom. We're going to open this up a bit more for a wider conversation about our health infrastructure, our health system itself, access questions. There's a lot in there to unpack that we'll be doing here on the Joy 99.7 FM on Joy News as well. Want to send me your thoughts? 055-1111-997. After business, I'll bring you a story of hope. From tragedy, you turn that into an opportunity to help others. That's a story we're telling you after George is done with business. Hello, George.
Hi, Evans. And coming up in business, commercial banks move to allow more movable assets to be used as collateral for loans. And Talo Oil projects average daily crude production to hit more than 100,000 barrels before the end of this year, as it plans to add 2 new wells before December this year. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, Syntax Tanks, and Pepsodent Charcoal and Herbal.
Exactly how my wife feels at any point in time. I know when she's happy.
Hey!
I know when she's sad.
Hello.
I know when she's just not in the mood.
What?
It's all thanks to her caller tune.
Express yourself with your MTN caller tune and let it do the talking. Simply dial *1355# and download your favorite caller tune or copy or renew your existing caller tune. Send start to 1355 or dial *1355# to subscribe today. MTN.
Hooray! The Kingdom Books and Stationery Limited's Back to School promotion is here with us once again. From the 4th of September to the 31st of October 2023, Kingdom Books and Stationery Limited is giving a generous 10% to 15% discount on all school items like textbooks, pens, pencils, erasers, exercise books, and so much more across all our branches in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Takoradi, Winneba, and Cape Coast. Parents, teachers, and students, please hurry while stock lasts. For more information, call us on 0302 764 101 or 0302 764 209 or email info@kingdomgh.com. You can also visit our website www.kingdomgh.com. Kingdom Books, where quality and affordability are both assured. Terms and conditions apply.
No matter your water needs, Syntex has it all. Syntex Tank was first to introduce double layer tank, and now you can have as many layers as you want. Syntex Tank was first to introduce white inner layer tanks in Ghana, and now introduces the customer specs order, which will let you order any color and size you want. Syntex Tanks gives you the biggest warranty of 7 years, which no other tank gives you. So whatever your water consumption, size of project, or demand, choose Syntex Tank. Syntex Tank, stress-free. Syntex Tank, reliable. Syntex Tank, maximum guarantee. Call 0244 335 168, Kumasi 0505 555 666, or visit syntexgh.com. Syntex Tank, a year strong, a year tough.
Ghana, are you ready? Mark your calendar as the Makers House Chapel International presents the Experience Conference 2023. From the 1st to the 8th of October, it's the gathering of the spiritual luminaries of the land. Get ready to experience Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, Reverend Dr. Mensah Otabil, Archbishop Charles Ajinasari, Reverend Dr. Ampia Kofi, Reverend Dr. Steve Mensah, Reverend Dr. Ebenezer Markwe, Bishop Frank Ofosu Apia, and your host, Dr. Michael Bwedi Nyamiche. Come and experience Jesus, the miracle worker. Venue is the Destiny Arena of the Makers House Chapel International, Atomic, adjacent School of Nuclear and Allied Sciences. Time is 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. on weekdays, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Saturday, and 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. on Sundays. It's going to be a life-changing encounter. The Experience Conference 2023. I can't wait.
I'm afraid. Yeah. Media sambisanda mo. Eti emrati no. Mumu hwan pa na tumi hwe na mo bodom pe mo man yakono.
Eye kwabna.
No mumu hwan so na tumi just mali me ma yene nyina de.
Eye kojo. Yampa.
Enu kro. Kobre tumi hwe na bodom pe mo sense o yisu accident eba. Ayede yan ban ne do braye. Bo si eti na mo ban na sem mana hode ne. Sa. Ani na kudwonsu yisu accident chako. Na eno ne de e ma wo se wo ye krejen fita. Na watimi asiri be my man feel you. Hey, Kojo, sir. Yeah. Pepsodent Heba and a Pepsodent Charcoal. I've idea. You're gonna natural.
FDIJ Trading Katoyatu.
You're welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, commercial banks say measures are being instituted to allow more movable assets to be used as collateral for loans. It follows concerns that banks are cutting down lending because of high default rate as well as difficulty in recovering loans backed by immovable assets. John Ewua is Chief Executive of the Ghana Association of Banks.
Working with the DVLA, we are even coming out with a product on vehicles or other movable property like vehicles to secure facilities in the way that the lender is protected and the borrower is also giving some leeway and is able to use these kind of movable assets to support their borrowing needs. It's important that we move to a level where even our digital footprints properly becomes collateralized and we can borrow against measures such as that.
But it will impact positively on recovery as well, NPLs?
Yeah, I mean, we should all, work together. NPLs, bringing it down is when people know that there are proper consequences for default. You have the judicial system working with us, the last commission working with us, NIB, with the Ghana card, all working together to make sure that the lending culture is improved in a manner that does not makes it easier for financial institutions or banks to recover, when there is distress in the assets that they have given. Basically, that's
but also, what about when it comes to lending? Because when I know that you can easily recover these things, would that make it easier for lenders?
Of course, the more you are able to recover from loans you have given, it gives you a lot more to give and also more confidence to give more. So it's in our interest as borrowers that when we borrow, we take money from the financial system, we have a proper plan of repayment.
John Wise, Chief Executive of the Ghana Association of Banks. Second Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Madam Elsie Odawaji, is charging banks to strictly enforce the sustainable banking principles, especially in the area of social inclusion. The second Deputy Governor was responding to a social media post of a young lady believed to have been born with autism that she has been able to open her first savings account. There is more in this report.
The second Deputy Governor's post on social media was after the young lady put up this post on Facebook after securing a job with Kempinski Hotel. The lady in the post praised EcoBank and the hotel for their pleasant service and inclusivity after securing the job, as well as the opportunity to open her first savings account. The second Deputy Governor also noted that the opportunities for the young lady goes beyond the opening of a savings account. Madam Awaji added that being part of the financial sector may help efforts by managers of the economy to maximize the country's full potential aimed at building a resilient economy. The second Deputy Governor was quick to remind banks and other financial institutions that one of the 7 sustainable banking principles launched by the Bank of Ghana in November 2019 requires that banks promote financial inclusion to all as well as gender equity in all their products and services to the public.
And that is a Business Desk report. Now, Tullow Oil is projecting that average daily production of crude could hit more than 100,000 barrels a day before the end of this year. This was captured in an operational production update released by Tullow Oil. Tullow Oil revealed that 2 wells should come on board to aid its new target. But why should we care about this target? Well, it could impact on job creation as well as the expected taxes that this company should be paying to these states. Ethiopian Airlines has indicated that its preparedness to partner the government of Ghana to develop the country's aviation sector. Chief Commercial Officer for the airline, Lema Yoncha, said that they are looking to deal with this with respect to the regional airports in Ghana. He was engaging journalists as part of his working visit to Ghana.
And public deserves more frequency. Yes, currently we are serving 11 flights and we are going to increase that to 14. Whenever the Ghanaian government is ready and if they believe that Ethiopian Airlines can make a difference, we will be more than happy to assist, because it's not about business or commercial venture. It is all about making Africa self-sufficient in air transport.
Lema Yoncha is the Chief Commercial Officer for Ethiopian Airlines, speaking there during a working visit to Ghana. And Evans, what could be the impact of the current economic crisis on the banking sector in Ghana? Now, that is what we'll be finding now when it comes to lending, borrowing, and savings. And what about the future of banking going forward? Now, Now, these are some of the issues that will be discussed, and when we engage now Dr. Hassan Andani on PM Express Business Edition tonight, I also find out from you how the economy is shaping up. Is it really showing signs of stability, or it is on that path? That is what we'll be finding out, Evans, tonight on PM Express Business Edition, as we look at the current state of the economy and impact on banking going forward with the former Association of Banks President and former Chief Executive of Stanbic Bank.
Interesting conversation ahead, and George will make a date with you at 9. Also, across our many social media platforms, Ms. Bao is here with sports.
Yeah, Evans, well, it's all about the upcoming GFA elections. Now, Kwesi Appiah is contesting for a seat on the Executive Council. Now, questions have been raised about that candidacy now, because Kwesi Appiah has been appointed as head coach of the Sudan national team. And the questions being raised is about his loyalty. Whether Kwesi Appiah will be loyal to the Ghana Football Association while serving as Executive Council member if elected, at the same time working as head coach of the Sudanese national team. Now, here is Bismarck Ayala, who agrees with the assertion that Kwesi Appiah will have a tough task winning a slot on the Executive Council.
Not the Companies Act. If you are voted as an ESCO member of the FA, you are just a board member of the Ghana Football Association. And every board member is supposed to hold a fiduciary duty to the institution Ghana Football Association. Now, how do you, as a board member, exercise your independent, unbiased, fair responsibility to Ghana Football Association as the head coach of the Sudanese national team? That is a very, very legitimate question that every delegate will be asking him or herself.
Meanwhile, Kumasi Asante Kotoko communication team member Nana Dakwa maintains that Kwesi Appiah will have no problem when it comes to his loyalty to the Ghana Football Association. Now, Appiah is running on the ticket of Kumasi Asante Kotoko and will be expected to work both for the Sudanese FA as head coach and for the Ghana Football Association and Executive Council member. Here is Nana Kwame Dakwa insisting that Kwesi Appiah has what it takes to win the seat on the Executive Council.
If it comes to loyalty, we know where Kwesi's loyalty will definitely be. I mean, it is something that we know to answer here, but of course you and I know if it comes to that, we know where Kwesi will definitely place his loyalty to. But I think that we'll be going to the delegates and speak to them. But I think that Kwesi has a chance of winning the seat simply because with what he has, I mean, with the technical know-how, if you look at the executive committee or the council of the football association, you need somebody in the caliber of Kwesi to, represent them in terms of technical issues. When most of the national teams travels and comes back, the technical report that they write, we don't have a technical person in the executive council that can also, scrutinize the report technically. And I think that with Kwesi's background as a technical person, yes, of course, he stands the chance of winning.
So, Evans, that's the conflict of interest question being put out there on Kwesi Appiah, head coach of Sudanese FA, yet want to serve on the highest decision-making body of the Ghana Football Association. Will he win in the upcoming elections, which was slated for October 5th, but is now in limbo because an application hearing on the election has now been postponed to October 12th. So Kwesi Appiah candidacy is now a matter of a question. Some are asking that he just withdraws, but he wants to proceed and contest. So that's it for sports events, and we'll follow this closely and bring you more updates.
Interesting times ahead indeed. Thank you very much, Ms. Bao. So listening to News 90 on Joy 99.7 FM. Now, when the lack of a hospital bed resulted in a delayed surgery for Rachel and Peter's son, causing permanent disability, they channeled their pain into helping other parents and children. Their son, who's unable to walk now, is also part of the initiative. Here's their story by Anodami in the latest episode of our Stories of Hope series.
I always go to church. I pray that one day I will walk.
9-year-old Cornelius Kwabena Adom, who loves to sing and play the keyboard, was born with a deformity. Diagnosed with spina bifida from birth, his parents got a shock when they were told their son may not be able to walk if a repair surgery was not done on him in the first 14 days of his life.
They were telling us the surgery, sometimes after doing it, it's either sometimes you will lose the lower limbs and other things. It wasn't easy for both of us in the family, but we tried our best to trust and pray.
Rahel Adom, mother of Cornelius and a nurse, read all about this illness, and so she quickly gathered the 3,000 cedis needed for the surgery before the ultimatum given by the doctors expired. But getting a bed at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital for the surgery became the bane. After waiting for a month, he had a blood infection which had to be treated first. When that was done and the repair surgery was about to be conducted, it was too late, and Cornelius was left with no luxury of walking.
At the end of the day, he survived. So after the surgery, I've been communicating to him. Before he will even be born, the father named him Cornelius. So I even speak with Cornelius, you are going to be great. So no matter whatever you are going through, you will survive.
After experiencing the dire circumstances under which parents with such situations face, Rahel and her husband founded the Challenged Children Foundation to aid children and parents alike.
We have the cerebral palsy, the autism, then disability to those who cannot walk. But the autism and cerebral palsy are more.
So how are you taking care of all of them?
We manage, and the family have to cut down our expenses and come down to help them. And my husband was so understandable when I told him that why don't you set a foundation to help so that when we legalize it, people will come on board.
Usually it is thought the fathers aren't that supportive when such incidences happen. But Peter Dramina Adom, father of Cornelius, is different.
It's only the women who bring the children to visit. I'm telling the men that they don't have to abandon the children. It is not their fault.
Cornelius, who desires to visit the Great Wall of China, says though his back always aches, he's grateful to his friends and family who always make him happy.
I did not know why I could not walk, so I decided to encourage myself by playing the keyboard. And I also decided to encourage others that if I can make it, all of the disability people can make it. We give you glory, Lord, as we honor you.
Hannah Odami for Joy News.
You are worthy, oh Lord. You are wonderful. You are worthy, oh Lord.
You want to find the full story on our social media pages. It's also on myjoyonline.com. Also catch it on Joy Prime at 7 p.m. on the Joy News channel as well. And just before we end, I want to share with you a few of the messages you shared with us on our WhatsApp pages. This is from to T.I. in Tamale says, just so disturbed about the news concerning the situation of kidney patients and their access to dialysis. Whatever cost there is for the increase, you cannot confront the patients with it just for one day to another, he says. And this one also sharing his thoughts on the subject of the kidney issues and the dialysis. Henry in Kaswa, he says, so now an individual can impose an unapproved inappropriate levy on the whole country to pay. Please, the discussion must go deeper to unravel and reveal the number of times we've been slapped with such unauthorized payment. It says from Kolebu Teaching Hospital. You can trust, you can bet, we'll do exactly just that. You're live here on Newsnight on Joy 99.7 FM, and shortly you can join Lexus Bill on Personality Profile. Lucy Bonini is a retired broadcaster and first female DJ in Ghana. She's up next here on Joy 99.7.